Hey there, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Today's talk is about the age-old wisdom of how to learn tennis. And there's a saying from the wisest man to have ever lived, King Solomon, and he said, "There's nothing new under the sun." Um, but somehow we act like there is. We think that everything's new and shiny and bright, and we get caught up in these um, innovative trends. But what people don't realize is that they cycle around, they come around, right? People get caught up in these fads, and then they don't realize that that's actually been done before by previous generations, and then found not to work quite as well, and then they go on to the next thing. So anyway, but we're going to talk a little bit about the age-old wisdom of how to learn tennis, and it actually jives really well with a lot of the modern research, which is not particularly trendy. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit about what are the trends and what are the positives, what are the negatives of the trends, and then we're going to get into how to all make it work and bring it all together. So, the first thing is one of the age old pieces of wisdom for teaching tennis is to demonstrate the technique that you're trying to teach. A great demonstration makes a huge difference in the learning of the player. And the reason for that is because there's this thing called chunking. So basically, chunking is that you present a large concept, the complete concept. So if you think about a textbook, like a math textbook for school, it gives you a concept. And then what it does is it gives you like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 examples of different aspects of the concept. And then because you got the big thing, then you start to understand how the other pieces fit together, right? If you're studying a history book, they'll give you a summary. You'll get a kind of an overview of and an outline of here's what's coming, right? And then you study in a lot more detail, and then you can put those details together into a comprehensive whole. So there's a lot of wisdom behind that. So you want to show the stroke, the entire stroke. And this is what I do, especially when I'm teaching the serve, I will serve a few. I'll say, hey, don't look at any one specific thing that I'm doing, just take in the whole thing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build your serve from the inside out. Now, that plays into the visual learning aspect, because it's the number one thing about demonstrating is it creates visual learning. And then what the student will do is then they will imitate, and their brain will have to work out the differences between what the core stroke is and what they're doing. The problem is that the current fad in teaching and learning tennis is all of this online instruction that has, 5 to 9 to 17. I saw 17 different aspects of how to hit a shot. In fact, I forget how long this was, but a number of years back, I was at a presentation by a high-level coach with one of the major organizations. I don't want to name them, but this person presented a 19-slide presentation on how to hit a forehand. And as he got about 5 minutes into this, and I turned to my friend next to me, I said, I'm not going to teach this. So, what we can do is we can take, one ideal forehand or a few ideal forehands and show what's in common between the good ones and what's idiosyncratic about the good ones, right? Because you have different kinds of forehands. You have fully extended arms and you have double bend arms, and that's a predisposition of the player, right? On the backhand, there are four distinct styles of two-handed backhand, and I believe, I'm not really sure about this, but I believe there are also two distinct styles of one-handed backhand. So you're going to model your shot, but then you're going to help the player discover their shot. And so it starts with visual, and then it moves to kinesthetic because they've got to discover what works for them. But now, like recently, there was a 9-point thing. Rich Nair of Tennis Business Newsletter was telling me about his frustration with a certain presentation that was the 9 different things that you have to do on the serve, right? Well, I'm sorry, but people don't really process that. And when you look at the 9 different things in isolation, then what happens is your brain has a really hard time reconciling the pieces. When does step 1 start to become step 2? When does 2 into 3 and all the way through? So you have basically you get this Frankenstein's monster thing where you've got Djokovic's head, and then you have the shoulders of Federer, and then the arms of Nadal, and so you've got this really ugly thing, right? I had a player who this kid was kind of bizarre, but he was in love with imitating strokes of professionals. And so one day he would come out and he would be trying really hard to hit Federer's forehand, Djokovic's backhand, Roddick's serve, and then the next day, then it would be Nadal's forehand, Federer's. He would try to hit a one-handed backhand all of a sudden, and then he would try to serve something like somebody else. And so I'm like, no, you need to learn. I'm teaching you to play like you, because you are not those people. You can take some things that they do and you can approximate those, right? But it's interesting because there's no hard and fast. There's no cookie cutters. There's no absolutes here. I had a kid who, for whatever reason, he just was amazingly fascinated with Federer, and he modeled his game completely after Federer's game, and I'll be darned if it didn't look a lot like it in terms of his stroke production. I mean, he was never a great player. His athleticism sort of held him back, but he had strokes that had an uncanny resemblance to Federer. And I'm not going to pull those apart, right? We got into we worked on making things work for him. All right, so idea number 1 is chunking is important. So start with demonstration. That goes into the visual learning, visual training. 2, the fad is on all this online instruction, and people are consuming it like crazy, and they're learning 9 things from one person, 19 things from another person, 5 from this one, 2 from this one, the number 1 secret of blah 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 from this person, and then it's just this big mix in their brain, and they don't know how to reconcile it. And then you get these people on court and their brain is full of mumbo jumbo, and they cannot execute because they're always, they're trying to evaluate, did I bring my racket to a certain level? Did I drop it in the slot? How was my swing path forward? Did I make a solid contact? Where's my follow through? Did I finish over there? Right? Instead, just demonstrate that thing. And then, most importantly, you work on things one at a time, right? I don't know how many times I'm on the court and I'm observing my player playing, and they're doing a certain thing. And what I try to identify is the number 1 most important thing that they need to improve in order to play better. But what do they invariably do? They jump ahead. They jump ahead. Their mind goes on to something else. So I'm like, no, we're not talking about right now. We'll fix that. Oh, but I was thinking about I should be doing this thing right here. Oh, I think I forgot my grip. I'm like, okay, well, you know, yes, grips are important. We're going to come back to that. But right now you have this problem of not seeing the ball come out of the opponent's racket. So yes, grips are important, right? But if you have a good grip, but you're just not seeing the ball at all, it doesn't matter how good your gripping is. We will address that. We can get into that. That's fine. So, you know, and then players' games evolve. They change. They get better. They become more athletic. They become more confident in their strokes, and then they're going to need to make some minute adjustments to some things because they're getting better. I mean, I know that when I started getting in better shape, I start playing a little bit lower to the ground, and then that means that I also have to change my forehand grip a little bit because my contact points are going to be lower than what they were, or actually relative to my eyes, my contact points will be higher, closer to my eyes, and so my grip goes from modified Eastern more to a semi-Western to accommodate that. So anyway, but these fads. I mean, we just got done with a major thing where now you have in your mind all these different things that you now are obligated to practice, right? You probably, if you came away from the tennis summit with more than one item to work on any particular stroke, then you're off target. And if you're not paying attention to what it looks like and what you see and feel and whether you felt yourself hitting a good shot, then you're also off track because the three places people's minds go to is creating checklists in their mind and trying to tick things off while also performing, which is almost impossible. Constant evaluation, where they're like, well, did I do it right according to the 9 things? Did I do all 9 things right that person said? Did I do all 19 things right? Which one did I not do? That shot didn't go in. Which one of the 9 things did I not do? And then you have the subjective judgments. You have people who say, good shot, bad shot, and how come I can't hit 2 good shots in a row? Then they go into which one of the 9 things did I not do, and they're not really sure because they don't have one thing to focus on. So anyway, this video is part of the series of launching the Visual Training for Tennis 4th edition, which goes a lot deeper into how to actually learn and teach tennis using visual skills, and the visual and the kinesthetic are always paired. They cannot separate those two. But 60% of your brain's activity is based on what you're seeing as you're connected to your vision. So when you shut your eyes, your brain takes a pretty significant drop off in CPU usage. And then your kinesthetic accounts for less than 10% of your brain's activity. But you have to be able to start to tune into that because you have to pair what you're seeing with what you're feeling. So anyway, it's time for me to get on a Winning Wednesday talk with Mark Jeffrey, and the Winning Summit is coming up. But then also, if you want a PDF on what are the important things to do while you're learning tennis visually and while you're teaching tennis visually, then send me an email to Infinite Vision Coach. I will also tack on the PDF that has to do with the nutritional aspects of vision to not only for growing children to have to develop great eyesight, but also eyesight for performance, and then also nutrition for maintenance of your eyesight so that you can mitigate some of the things that come through older age, like cataracts and macular degeneration and whatnot. So I'll gladly send you all of that. Just shoot me an email right there, infinitevisioncoach@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. If you put comments and stuff, I will circle back and take a look at those. And thanks for watching.